Thanks everyone for joining. Today we are going to be painting the wine bottle and glass painting. So there is quite a bit of drawing. I sent out a grid for you to print or instructions to draw. Hopefully everyone got that and was able to print it. That's going to help us a lot. So I'm going to walk you through all the steps. It's really not difficult drawing. It's just a lot of steps. So I did schedule this for 2 hours. We may or may not need the whole 2 hours, just depending on how fast or slow we are. And I haven't done this class before, so we'll have to do our best. But I'm going to try to keep things rolling and on track. Actually, I'll put this over here so I can grab it if I need it. Just so we can sort of do a better job with, or so I can do a better job with starting and stopping on time. So inspiration for this painting, I thought I would share it with you. So I designed the Hillsborough Tuesday Night Market poster back in 2017, and I was trying to sort of get like some images that kind of gave the feeling of the whole market. So music and food and people and wine and sort of, that night market feeling. So this was sort of my first draft printed out. I don't actually have the framed original at home, which I could have brought, but this is a little bit easier. So it was this size. They made these nice little cards with like the schedule of events. So this is basically the same. I kind of used the same drawing for this class as what I used in the poster. So when I designed the poster, I sketched out, sort of figured out, all the individual elements first, and then made a drawing, kind of a sketchy drawing of all those elements. So here's the guitar and the people and the trees up here. So I used my computer to create the font because I'm terrible at handwriting letters. So everything else is hand drawn except for the font. And then I use the exact same process that I have you do in class, where I then traced it onto my big tracing paper and then transferred that to a big piece of watercolor paper. So I just thought I'd share that with you, that I used that same process for that poster. And the inspiration for the actual items was this wine bottle and glass from my own kitchen. So I just took a picture of it and then drew it. And then I also had this, I kept a file with all this stuff. So that's my actual guitar that's in the drawing as well. So I modified it a little bit and just sort of resketched it. And I know that's kind of hard to see in my sketchbook, but I kind of used the same tracing. So just, here's an example of where I did a drawing before and did a tracing, and I kind of used that same tracing to create another painting. So that's where this came from. Just thought you would like to know the inspiration behind it.
That's good.
So I'm going to switch my camera now, and I'm going to go over the supplies. So we have our printer paper with our grid. So this is going to be used for the drawing. And I have a sheet of tracing paper.
Oh boy, okay, tracing paper.
And I'm painting on an 8x10 piece of watercolor paper. I'm hoping it's going to just barely fit. It will fit. We can always just shorten the wine glass or the wine bottle a little bit. And I have my portable board. Leanne, hopefully you received that in the mail. It was supposed to be there a while ago. Okay, good. Spray bottle. Number 2 pencil. Number 6 or number 8 round brush. This one's the number 8 brush that I talk about. That's a little bit smaller than what I would call an 8. It's kind of between a 6 and an 8. And then I have my paints, today I'm using my Winsor Newton Professional in this folding palette. And I've got a piece of paper towel underneath my palette. Got some painter's tape. We're going to be stretching our paper, and my water container, and kneaded eraser. That's optional. You don't have to have one. You can use the eraser that's on your pencil, but these are kind of nice and handy. And I don't think we're going to need a ruler, but if you want to use it for straight lines, feel free. Any questions about the supplies? Okay. Yeah.
I have a question. I thought I didn't have any tracing paper, so I was just going to use transfer paper.
That's fine.
That was David's step, wouldn't it?
It would. If you like using transfer paper, then that's great.
I found some tracing paper, so I decided I'd follow your lead.
Either way you want to do it. Some people like to just hold it up to a window and trace, or you could use a light box, whatever you have. I'm just assuming that people don't have transfer paper. I don't use it myself. I just like to have the pencil lines from the graphite myself, but there's lots of different ways to do it. So whatever you prefer, feel free.
Well,
okay.
Use it in my oil paintings when I want to sketch something on a canvas.
Oh, yeah. I know some of them, the transfer papers can be a little waxy, so I kind of stay away from that just for that reason. But if you have one for watercolor paintings specifically, that would be great. Any other questions about supplies? Okay, so we're going to start into our drawing, and I'm going to show you. So what I do is I draw it out myself on grid paper, and then I number it so that we can go through the steps. And I'm going to send you a picture of this numbered drawing with the instructions after class. So if you want to do this again, you'll be able to. Although you'll have your tracing, or your drawing. Okay, so we're going to start with the wine glass, just because it's going to be in front. We could start with the wine bottle if we wanted to, but we'll start with the wine glass and sort of work our way around. The first thing I'm going to have you do is number these lines going down. So you should have 1 through 10 going down, and then at the top, we'll start with A and add letters going across. Just so if we get lost, we have a point of reference. So we're going to start with sort of the middle of our wine glass. So we're going to find actually, I didn't number this, so let me do that. All right. So we're going to find row 6 and the row between 6 and 7 here, and we're going to go over to the column between E and F. Okay, and we're going to just draw a line cutting that square in half. And then what we're going to be doing is sort of drawing the base of the wine glass. So we're going to draw an oval shape right in here, and that's sort of right at the base of the stem of the wine glass. And then we're going to draw a smaller oval inside that. And then I'm just going to extend that oval down past that line just a little bit with another kind of smiley face line. And then we're going to mark some points of reference so that we can draw sort of the top of our wine glass. So we're going to mark a point on line 5 at D and G where those intersect. And if you want to, you can mark a point on line 6 right in the middle of D and E and right in the middle of F and G. So it'll just help us sort of make that curve. And then we're just going to draw a curved line right down to the side of that oval. So your line should be stopping at line, or your curved line should be stopping at line 5 right now. And then we're going to make a couple more points up here on line 4, right above where we stopped here. But we're going to come in about a quarter of the way from D and G. So I've got these 2 points just in a little ways, about a quarter of an inch. And then I'm just going to connect the nice curved line down to line 5. Then I'm going to draw a slightly arched line connecting those dots on line 4. When I have that one, I'm going to draw another one right above it. So that's going to form the top of our glass. And I'll try to darken that a little bit more so you can see it. It's just like about, I would say like an 1/8 of it or 1/16 of an inch away. So we've got kind of 2 little matching lines there. All right, everybody doing okay with that?
Hope so. Sort of.
Okay, now we're going to make an oval shape right above line 5 here. So I'm going to just start with kind of a really slightly curved line right above line 5. And I'm just going to, it's kind of a pointed oval, I guess. I'm just going to kind of loop that back around with another curved line. Now I'm not going all the way to the edge of the wine glass here, because this is going to be the wine that's in the glass. We've got to make space for the actual glass on the side here. And then I'm going to make some little reflections in the glass. So kind of some little curved shapes like that. I've got one there, and then a couple on this side. So they're kind of curving with the shape of the glass here. I'm going to hold that up so you can see it a little bit closer. I'm actually going to maybe make this oval just a little bit closer to the side. Everybody doing okay with that? Okay. So we're going to move on to creating our stem. So on lines 7 and 8, right below the that oval shape, we're going to add some points of reference here. So they're going to go kind of a third of the way, kind of separating this line into thirds on both lines 7 and 8. And then we're going to put 2 more down here on line 9 on E and F. And then we're just going to start making our stem here. So I'm going to add a curved line, sort of curving in like that from right at the bottom of that oval shape, connecting to those first 2 dots. And then I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep this line curved in. On both sides. So these dots just kind of help me keep my lines where they should be. And I'm going to do the same thing down here to line 9. And you can smooth it out as you go there. Then I'm going to make a little curved line connecting these two dots on line 9, the bottom of the stem. Then another one right above it, that same curve. Okay. Now I'm going to add kind of this, I don't know what kind of shape this is, but I'll draw it, kind of a half circle that kind of connects up to those dots. It overlaps these lines just a little bit. Then down on line 10, right below that, I'm going to add some dots where E and F intersect. And then we'll finish up the base of our wine glass. So I'm going to draw kind of a rounded V shape on each side. This one kind of goes about 2/3 of the way into the square. And I'm going to continue down here with a nice little flat smiley face shape. And then you might just have to smooth out this line down here a little bit. Everybody doing okay with that?
Oh,
Kinda?
it's kind of okay.
Give you a couple minutes. Any particular trouble areas?
Well, I just don't think my V's are round enough.
Mm. I did in my drawing add one more little detail, which was kind of an upside down curve right underneath the base of the stem right here. You could add that if you want to. think the wine glass is kind of the trickiest part in this painting.
Question?
Mm-hmm.
My trouble spot that I'm not enjoying the most
Mm-hmm.
is just right where you were. The first two, oval and smile. Yeah, I'm just not. So when we finished, we've got an oval.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a smile under it. And we leave the bottom of the oval. And we leave the bottom of the smile. So they're still all there. Can we erase them?
Yeah. I
And
have
then,
a line there that, let me erase this line.
and then you've got a circle inside the circle that I think I missed. Thank you.
And you know, these are just little details.
Oh, I like the details.
Honestly.
You know
So
me.
don't worry too much. But let me smooth this out
And
just a little
measuring,
bit.
is it a quarter of an inch?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about measuring. I mean, you know, I was just looking at a wine glass and making this up myself when I
Oh,
did
I
it.
need
So,
measuring. Thank you.
so we've got an oval right here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then we've got a little oval inside of it,
Oh.
right here, that little
Uh-huh.
one. And then I've got another sort of smiley face line here underneath those. But like I said, these are just extra details, so don't worry too much. If we got the shape of the wine glass, you're golden.
Yeah. I didn't start it my smiley face where I should have. Thank you. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Pretty about ready to move on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go up here to our wine bottle. And so we're going to start at the top and work our way down. So we're going to draw the top of the wine bottle first. I'm going to start on line 1 here between C and D. And I'm going to draw 2 lines crossing. So this is going to be the very top of our wine bottle. Crossing line 1, they're about a quarter of an inch.
Thank you.
And then I'm just going to connect those two, the slightly curved, upwardly curved line, like that. I'm going to go straight down from there onto line 2. I'm going to draw 2 dots in that same location where I drew these lines. I'm also going to draw 2 dots on line 3, right where C and D intersect. So that's going to be kind of where our wine bottle starts to curve. And then I'm going to connect all 3 of these. I'm going to go straight down. You can use a ruler for this if you want, but I'm just going to freehand it. I'm going to go straight down, and I'm going to just curve into that dot on line 3. Or you could start from down there and go up if you wanted. But just curve right into that dot when you get down there. Here's what mine looks like. Okay. So our bottle is going to come down right between B and C here. So I'm going to add another dot on line 4, just to indicate where that is. And right in the middle of B and C there. And another one on line 8, right in between B and C. And I'm going to add another one on line 8 between D and E. So it's going to mark the other side of our bottle.
Oh boy.
Everybody okay?
I missed one on line 8 between B and C. Yes?
B and C, yeah, and then
Yeah.
D and E.
Thank you.
Now, if you want, you can use a ruler. Connect those. I'm going to connect these two. We already had one on line 6 between D and E that we used for our wine glass. So I'm just going to connect these two. And then I'm just going to draw a nice curve from this point at 3C down to the top of the side of the wine bottle. So just a nice curved line like that. And then same thing on the other side over here, touching our wine glass. It should probably end about like in the middle of D and E here. And then at the bottom of our wine glass is going to be down here on line 9. And so I'm going to draw a curved line like this. And it's going to come up about a quarter of the way up this square from line 9. And I'm just going to connect those lines down to that curve. Now, in the painting, for both the wine glass and the wine bottle, I left the bottom of them unfinished. Kind of like we did in the orchid class, if you were in that class. I left the corner kind of unfinished in the wine bottle and the bottom of the wine glass unfinished, just to make it a little more interesting. So if you want to do that, then you can erase part of the bottom of both your wine bottle and your wine glass. It not only makes it just a little more interesting, it also helps you feel like you don't have to make it perfect at the bottom. So I just erased like kind of a corner here and kind of this little side of the wine glass. And we'll just do like a wet and wet technique when we paint that and let it just kind of blend. So if you're ready to move on, we're going to finish up the details of our wine bottle here. So at the top, I've got a curved line for that, that little piece of foil at the top of the wine bottle. So right in between lines 2 and 3, I'm just going to add little curved line, about the same curve as the top of the wine bottle. And then I'm going to draw the label. So for this one, I did my sunflower in the label. Now you could put whatever you want in the label. You can do the sunflower, which is what I'll demonstrate, a very simple one, or you could make up your own. So we'll draw the label. So the top of the label is going to go right underneath line 4 here. So I'm going to start just a little tiny bit on the edge of the wine bottle here, a little tiny bit below line 4. And I'm going to make a curved line that connects over to the wine glass. It's going to start a little bit below line 4, but then it's going to touch line 4 right here between C and D. And then it's going to curve down just a tiny bit to touch that wine glass. And then I'm going to draw another one right below it. Anywhere from like 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch wide, whatever it's just the border for your wine label, so it could be whatever you want. And then we're going to draw the edge of that label right here. So here's the side of our bottle. I'm going to come in about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to bring this line down to about the middle between lines 7 and 8. So I'm in this square between lines 7 and 8. And I'm stopping about halfway past line 7 here. And I'm going to just make a dot over here on the left side of my wine bottle between lines 7 and 8. So same distance up from line 8 as the line we just drew over here. So halfway between line 7 and 8. Stopped. And then I'm just going to add a curved line between those two, kind of following the same curve as the bottom of our bottle here. So that's the bottom of our label. And then I'm going to add a matching line right above it, curved line here. Try to make that a little darker so make sure you can see it. And then I'm going to continue that right up parallel to the edge of the label that we just drew. So on this side, you should have the right side of the bottle, a line for the edge of the label, and another line to the left for the to create the border for the label. So now if you want to draw the sunflower in there, I just started with a circle in between lines 5 and 6 and between C and D, kind of directly down in the middle of the bottle. I'm going to draw just a circle right here, kind of in the bottom left-hand corner of that square. So I'm just trying to like center that kind of in the label here. That's the center of my sunflower or daisy or whatever you want it to be. And then just draw some petals. I like to have some sort of overlapping ones like that. And they might not go all the way over. Some of them are going to go off the edge. Now you don't have to draw this. Probably what I did was I just painted these petals in rather than drawing, but just to make it a little easier on ourselves, we can draw them in. So don't feel like you have to draw them in. I guess that's what I should have said. If you want to just paint them in later, you can. Oops. The camera is very wiggly. Well, you guys are doing so well. I can't see what you're doing, but I know you're doing really well.
I love it.
You ladies, I should say. I always say guys, but really I'm trying. My intention is to be very inclusive. Now I'm going to draw a line. This is our last step, just indicating sort of our background here, whether it's a table or something. And that's just going to be on line 7. I'm just going to kind of darken this line, going over a couple squares from the right of the wine glass and sort of in between the wine glass and the bottle. And then maybe just over to line B, or sorry, column B on line 7 here. Oh yeah, that's going to fit. Good. Oh, I did miss another step actually. The little reflections in the on the bottom or the bottle.
Sure.
Put my glasses back on here. Okay, so I had a couple little reflections, kind of like these that I have in the glass on the bottle. Here, right under sort of where that foil would be on the top, and then a couple here. So kind of like in between lines 3 and 4, little arched shape. I kind of have like them squared off at the bottom. These I have kind of like a little angle at the bottom. You don't have to make them exactly like I am, but that's sort of what I did. So I was looking at like kind of where the light reflects in this picture. Obviously these are a little bit more random shapes than what I just drew, but I tried to simplify it a little bit. So that's kind of what I was going for there. Same thing with the glass. I've got that one over here, similar to that. Not exactly the same. And then a couple right here, just to indicate that light. Everybody doing okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always still happy, not usually finished.
Got it? Okay, so our next step is going to be tracing or transferring, whichever process you like to follow. Mine's going to be tracing. I'm going to just tape the top of my drawing there and grab my tracing paper here. Put it over the top of my drawing. And then I'm also going to tape a little piece of tape at the top of this. So that way neither of these move around. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace all of the lines that we drew. We don't really have any extra lines that we need to ignore in this one other than the grid. I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. And just tracing all of these lines. This kind of gives you an opportunity to smooth out any weird lines along the way.
I have plenty of those.
Weird lines are us.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're doing this class. I've wanted to have a chance to understand good way to draw glass and things in it. So thank you for the help.
Yeah. And I know you're just following my steps, and it's a little bit harder. We can't see each other face to face and have a real object to draw from. Trying to fit as much as I can into an online class, you know. But at least you kind of get the idea of like, okay, these are the shapes that make up this thing, you know, and you can pull out one of your own wine glasses and look at it and see, okay, there's some similar shapes here and some that are different, but I kind of have an idea now how to do this.
Are
That's
you
my goal.
making any plans to have in-person classes now that the restrictions are less?
Well, I have been thinking about that, and I don't know. Well, I'll just skip to the end. What I decided was I really can't until all the restrictions are lifted because I don't have a way to keep people 6 feet apart from each other
Oh, yeah.
just yet.
Yeah.
Even when we do get to that point, I probably will set up a table out in the hallway and do it out there. Now, I do have another option. I heard that so we have these food carts on Main Street, and there are 10 tables set up out there. And some are standing tables and some are sitting tables. But I heard that that area is available in the mornings if I wanted to use it for an in-person class.
Ooh,
I don't know how the logistics of that would work just yet because the tables are obviously spaced apart. But it is an option. I have a lot of people who like the Zoom classes, so I'm not planning on stopping the Zoom classes. So it would probably be in addition to the Zoom classes at this point, not replacing them, but definitely I'm in wait and see mode and probably can't really do anything, full blown in person until like all the restrictions are lifted that we have to do this social distancing,
yeah.
because yeah, it's just going to be difficult.
Zoom in the morning works for me. Getting to Hillsborough in the morning wouldn't. The 1 o'clock in person time worked. It's just me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
fine on Zoom because you really give us so many instructions and good ways to be able to draw things that, well, it's working for me, but
Yeah. And I think it is for a lot of people. And there are definitely like advantages to
yeah.
this. I mean, there are advantages to in person also. Um, but this
Well,
is
yeah, I can
this
see
is great
Myra's point.
too.
Yeah, if we were together, we could point at our paper and say,
Exactly.
yeah, that
Yeah,
part's
I
all
could.
working for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't see what you all are doing, which is difficult for me. I can't see where you're at,
Uh-huh.
whether I should go faster or slower. I kind of look at your faces to see what
You know,
what's
are the
going
colors
on.
on the paper good? Still? Oh,
Okay, I'm going to keep moving here.
good.
So I've got my tracing. I'm going to show you. So this is what mine looks like, just to give you an idea. Now I'm going to take my drawing, set that aside. Oh, now I'm going to write the word front on this before I turn it over. This one could go either way though, if you wanted to do it backwards. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to scribble over all these lines to add graphite to the back. So that's what's going to transfer to the watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be precise at all. Just make sure you cover all of the lines with the graphite. if you were doing this painting for someone as a gift, you could do like a personalized wine label, just an idea, some image that they like.
Yeah.
Butterfly, turtle, tree. Who knows?
My sister has a vineyard. I'm thinking about her to receive a gift of a picture from me.
Yeah.
Does she have a wine bottle label you can replicate? Personal.
She has a vineyard. She has a vineyard, not a winery.
Oh, okay. Well, you can make it look like she does have a winery.
I gotta think what they call their farm. Something or other acres.
There you go.
I did do one. Actually, I brought that sample to show you. Put it somewhere. With just nothing wine label. So this was a completely different painting I did long time ago. But you know, I just did the wine label in a different color, so it doesn't have to have anything in there really. It could be very generic.
Well, I think I'm going to see her in June, so on my way home from my other sister's place. So maybe they call their place something or other acres. I know that much.
You could take the painting as a gift. You can be sneaky and find out the acre's name first.
Yeah.
Like you have enough time to do a painting before June. Never mind, I didn't say that.
Well, I do have enough.
She will, because she's going to have all the drawing done after today.
3 weeks from now. 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Now I like to take a tissue or a little piece of paper towel and smooth this out just a little bit. I'm not trying to remove any. I know you've all heard me say a lot of these same things before, but I'm just sort of smoothing these lines.
How do you do this so fast?
Well, just don't try to be too precise about it. You're just scribbling lines. It doesn't have to be anything.
Well, you were half done before I got my paper untaped.
Oh, I've done this like 1,000 times. That's why.
Thanks for asking, Myra. Then I didn't have to.
If you have any extra little graphite particles, you can just shake those into your wastebasket.
Oh, we're supposed to have a wastebasket?
Well, or onto your floor. That's fine too. I'm going to clean up my board. It transferred onto my board.
I forgot to remove the corner of my wine bottle.
Oh, you can just not trace it then.
Yeah. Hey, if I forgot once or twice,
Ooh.
We need to fix it. Oh, this is fun. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Everybody doing okay with that?
Yeah.
Getting there.
Okay, a
Not
couple more
bad.
minutes.
Couple minutes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break and I'll be right back. I'm going to mute myself here. All right, everybody ready to move on?
Pretty much.
Great.
I have a question though first.
Uh-huh.
What color would you use if you wanted to put a white wine in your bottle?
White wine?
Yeah.
Hmm.
The reason I'm asking is because my sister grew Pinot Noir grapes and then they got a disease and they had to tear the whole vineyard out. And they replanted with Chardonnay.
Oh. Yeah, maybe greens and yellows. I'd have to play around with a little bit. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stretch my paper now. I'm taping it down on all 4 sides. I'm trying to tape it down on all 4 sides, fighting with the tape. I am using, I guess I didn't say this at the front of the class, 140-pound cold pressed paper. I'm using the Fabriano paper today. I'm out of arches, so this is what I have. I need to go down to the art supply store today. I like it. It's very similar to the arches, which is my favorite. All right, so I'm going to place my tracing on my paper. And just kind of eyeballing the placement here. That looks good. And I can see the word front, so I know that that's the correct side is up. And then I'm going to trace all these lines. Now, if you want, you can put a piece of scratch paper under your hand if you'd like. Sort of like this, if you don't want to get graphite on your hand. And I like to do a couple of lines and then lift up and check, make sure I'm getting it dark enough, which I am. So show you what mine looks like. And I know that's a little bit hard for you to see, but I think you can see. I can see it in the video. So that's kind of what you want. Not too dark, but not too light that you can't see it. So just dark enough that you can see it. I'm just sort of working my way down here so that I can try to remember what I've traced. I'm going to have to check to make sure I got everything. Pretty much.
Think.
If we wanted to use this over again, would we need to scribble over it again to make sure there's plenty of graphite?
Well, what I do is I just test it first. You know, like just try. Ooh, I got off kilter a little bit there. Try tracing it again, like on a scrap paper. And if you have enough, then you might not have to add more graphite. But if you don't have enough, then yeah, just add a little bit more graphite to the back. Sort of depends on how much you put on there the first time. Yeah, my lines. Go ahead.
Asking about the white wine is because I did remember the name of their farm.
Mm.
They call it Bacchus Acres.
Oh, interesting. Well, my paper shifted a little bit, so I'm just readjusting my drawing here a little bit.
Just not.
Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Couple more minutes, you think?
At the most.
Or getting close? Okay.
Yes, yes.
I have mine done.
Yours is done. Okay. So you can just, yep, put that off to the side. All right. So we are going to be using, let me bring the painting back over here. We're going to start up here and kind of work our way down. Probably do the bottle first, and then we'll work on the wine glass, and then our background. Probably the wine glass, and then our flower, and then while this is drying, we'll do our background. So I've got some green here. I've got a little bit of burnt sienna. I've got Payne's Gray. Use Payne's Gray really kind of throughout for these, to sort of mute some like the green and for the glass here. And then we've got the, whatever your cool red is mixed. We have a little bit of Payne's Gray in there. So a lot of wet and wet in the glass. And we'll just take it section by section. So we're going to start from the top and kind of work our way down. We'll probably do these two sections first, and then we'll come back up here and do this one. So we'll start by mixing some green I'm going to spray my palette here, sort of get it ready. I'm going to spray my Payne's Gray. My green, I've got a sap green, or if you have Hooker's green, that works. Yellow, burnt sienna. My cool red, which in this one is a permanent carmine. And so I'm going to prepare sort of two. I'm going to have my Payne's Gray sort of ready to go here. I already have some in my palette, but I'm running out of water in my spray bottle. Just make sure I have some Payne's Gray. So I had just pulled some Payne's Gray out and mixed it with water here. So we're going to be using that quite a bit. And I'm going to do the same thing with my green. Bring some green out here. Mix it with some water. I'm going to bring a little bit of yellow over here. Mix it with some water. It's not too bright.
What yellow are you using?
I'm using a cadmium yellow.
Okay.
If you have a lemon yellow, that would be great. A Hansa yellow.
I have a pale and a deep yellow and cadmium.
I would say, it kind of depends. Right now, maybe the pale yellow. When you get to these parts, maybe you could use the deep. For the bottle part, we're not going to be using a whole bunch of yellow. So whatever you have there is fine. We just want to water it down a little bit so it's not too intense. And I'm going to bring my red out here.
What was your red again?
I'm using a permanent carmine. If you're using the Van Gogh colors, I have a Madder Lake Deep that's very similar. Or if you had like an alizarin crimson, that would work too.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to pretty much be doing wet and wet throughout this painting. I'm going to start at the top of this wine bottle. I'm going to paint some water in here first. Looks like I still have a little bit of red on my brush. So I'm just painting a little bit of water right in that top part there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of green. I'm just going to go around the edges here. And pretty much going all the way to those pencil lines. Now I blotted my brush and I picked up some of the paint right in the middle to make it lighter right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dip the tip of my brush into this Payne's Gray, and I'm just going to tap it right at the edges where those pencil lines are. Kind of on the sides. I'll hold that up a little bit closer so you can see what I did there.
Where'd you put the Payne's gray?
Just on the edges, like on this side, the left side and the right side,
Okay.
kind of like right up next to the pencil lines, just with the tip of my brush.
Okay.
But I'm going to do the same thing in this area here. I'm going to avoid those little light reflections, but I'm going to paint water first up to the edges and going around those little reflections. I'm going to do pretty much the same process as I did with the top, but I'm going to add a little bit of yellow this time. And when I'm doing this, I just want enough water so that it's glistening, but not puddled up. So we want enough so that it's not going to dry on us before we get our paint in there. So I'm going to just go around the edges. I'm going to get some of my green here. And I'm just pointing my brush towards the edge, going right up to that pencil line. Right around the edges like this. Just letting that green flow into the water. Just basically painting around the edges. And I'm going to go around these little reflections here. And we can always go back and refine this a little bit more later. Now, oh, I apologize. I hit the camera a lot. I'm going to wash my brush. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of this yellow that I have mixed with water. And I'm just going to kind of tap that in a couple places there. If you feel like you got too much, you can blot it up a little bit with your brush. And then I'm going to take that Payne's Gray and the puddle that I have mixed. I'm going to do the same thing I did up here. I'm just going to go along the edge of this wine bottle with the tip of my brush, making sure I go all the way to those pencil lines. So I'm not trying to avoid the pencil lines. I'm trying to go all the way, touching them, and then we won't see them when we're done. So you can see I left a lot of white space in there. Now, if you feel like it's too much white space, you could take a little bit of this green. Like here, I've got maybe a little too much. I didn't kind of define those reflections as much as I wanted. So I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and that green. I'm going to go around the edges of those reflections like that. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Ooh. My Payne's gray is bleeding into the rest.
Into the rest?
Wet?
It's supposed to. You want everything to bleed together in this.
I mean, I can. Oh, okay.
We want all of those colors to blend together on the paper.
We put the Payne's gray across the bottom too? Is that what you did?
I did all the edges, yes, of the bottom too. All right, I'm going to keep moving here. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the bottle. And down here, we're going to use our red and the Payne's gray, and it's going to be the same process. So I'm going to take my water out of my water container, and I'm painting again up to those pencil lines. Now we have a missing corner down here, so I'm just going to kind of smooth the water down there in the corner where it would normally be. And I'm going to go right up here on the outside of my label. So I'm not painting the label yet, I'm on the outside edge of it. So just the bottom of the bottle here. And I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to take my red and I'm going to go around the edges. So I'm going right up to those pencil lines, all the way around to the edge. I'm going to stop right where that our fake corner is. I'm going to go up. Now when I go over here to the side, I'm holding my brush more straight up and down so that I can use more like the point of my brush, that part, and then I'm just stopping down there where that missing corner is, painting all the way up to the pencil line on this, next to this label. And I might just fill in a little bit of this white space, but I do want to leave some white space there just to make it interesting. And then I'm going to take my Payne's gray, and we want the Payne's gray to be a little darker here. So I'm going to take a little bit more out into my mixing area. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go around the edges again. So we really want some nice darkness here. So I went up the side there with it. And I'm going to go along these edges. And that's just going to blend in really nicely because our paint is still wet. And maybe tap a little bit more in there. And that's it. I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to overwork that. It's like blending together really nicely. It's got that nice like darkness at the bottom of the bottle that I want. If you feel like it's not dark enough, you can add a little more maybe down there at the bottom. But we're going to leave that corner unfinished like that. So don't be tempted to try to finish that corner. Unless you put a line there and you want to, then it's up to you. Then you're on your own. How's that going?
I'm a little behind, I think, but
Me too.
going all right.
Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. So you can come back to that later. Watch the video if you need to. I'm going to come back up here to the top of the bottle. So this is like where you would have the foil. And again, so right now this is pretty dry, but I'm going to try to avoid the green. So I'm going to go up to the pencil line. So I dipped my brush in the water container. So again, I'm doing a wet on wet here with some plain water first. I'm going to go almost up to that green, but not quite touching it. But I do want to go all the way to the pencil lines on the side. And then I'm going to take, I've got a very, very light mixture of burnt sienna here. I'm going to add just a tiny touch of yellow just to warm it up a little bit more. Now I'm going to go around the edges with this burnt sienna, just like we did on the other parts. So you can see there's some white space in the middle, which that's what I want. And then I'm going to take my Payne's Gray. I want kind of more of a watery mix. I just added a tiny bit more water there. And again, I'm just kind of touch the tip of my brush in the paint there and just lightly touch that Payne's Gray to the edges like that. I'm going to go around the bottom edge too, all the way up to the pencil lines on the side. Very light.
Okay, could you repeat? You start with the yellow and then add the burnt sienna?
No, so I had burnt sienna mixed in my palette right here. Okay. With some water. And then I added just a little touch of yellow from my puddle of yellow here to the burnt sienna in the palette still. So then I took that and I added it to the water over here in the bottle.
Yeah, okay.
So Myra, I'm thinking probably for a white wine bottle, you could do the same sort of thing we did up here with the green down here.
Yeah.
And so we have the yellow in here and make the kind of the majority of this area yellow and then, you know, the green and the Payne's Gray around the edges. I bet that would work.
That sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to move over to the wine glass here. Now this is going to be, we're going to do some wet and wet up here with the Payne's Gray. And then the wine itself is going to be the same process we did for the bottom of the wine bottle. We're going to have two sections, the top of the wine and then the body of the glass. And then the stem is going to be just the Payne's Gray and water. So probably we'll do this up here and then the stem, and then we'll come back here and do the red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint just the water on this top part, so above where the wine is sitting in the glass. I'm going around these little reflections. Just going to go back and add a little bit more water here. And then I'm going to start with a pretty watery mix of Payne's Gray. And again, we're going to do the same thing where we just kind of go around the sides with this. We're going to start light and then we can add more darkness if we need to. But I'm just sort of touching the brush into that water, going around the edges. We want a lot of white space in this one. So I'm going around the edges, touching those pencil lines, going around the edges of those little reflections along the top here. All the way to the side of the glass. And smooth that out just a little bit. Then I'm going to go right along. Now I'm going to paint sort of wet on dry on this top little rim of the glass with the tip of my brush and the Payne's gray. So I'm going to touch the top pencil line, and I'm going to try to leave a little bit of a space between this and what I just painted. And if you touch it a little bit and it bleeds in, that's totally fine. Yeah, a little darkness over here on each side, I think. And a little depth. I'm going to do the same thing down here. So I'm going to start kind of where the upside down curved line is. And I'm going to go right down to those first two lines. Just like kind of like the middle section of the stem. And then again, I'm going to take my Payne's gray kind of with the tip of my brush. I'm just going to go kind of along all those edges. Painting right up to that pencil line. And I'm leaving the white space in the middle. So it should be just flowing from the edge into the middle. I'm going to skip this little section right here for now. I'm going to leave that white. And I'm going to paint water in this kind of half circle section here. And then I'm just going to take my Payne's gray. I'm going to go around the edges of it. And kind of make a point of making the color just a little bit darker on the outside edges here. and a little bit lighter towards the middle. And then I'm just going to move down here to the base. Now we have like this fake corner down here too, so I'm going to paint water in this whole area and then just kind of let that flow. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space between what I just painted and that water that I'm adding now. Not quite going up to that with my brush. I'm going to take my Payne's Gray and just go around the edges. Here I'm going to start on the sides. Go up to those pencil lines there. I'm going to wash my brush and just come back and sort of smooth this up to that last section I painted without touching it. So I'm leaving kind of a lot to the imagination down here, which I kind of like. It makes it look more watercolory, I think. If that wasn't a word before, I just made it up.
It's a good one.
Shakespeare made up words and we're still using them. You can do it too.
Here you go. Everybody doing okay with that?
Well, I'm not keeping up very well, but I'm trying. I haven't drawn my border around my upper glass. Should I do that before it dries?
The very top here?
Yeah.
Oh, you can do that at any time.
Oh, okay.
It's a separate section. You can go back and do that later.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't do it either.
Yeah, you can do it later.
Okay.
I'm going to keep moving here. So we're going to add the wine to the glass, and it's going to be just like we did over here. So I'm going to start with the big section here. So again, I'm just painting water up to that pencil line. And then I'm going to add the red. Just pull a little bit more out here into my palette. My puddle got a little bit dry. A little more water. So again, I'm going to go around the edges. I'm going to try to leave some white, nice white space over here for reflection. I'm just going along the edges here. Right up to the pencil line. My pencil line's got a little wonky on this drawing for some reason, so you can, if yours did too, you can like kind of smooth them out as you paint. So again, I'm going just along the edges here. Just kind of carefully going up along those pencil lines. Smooth that out a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit more red over here. Just touching that in there with my brush. And I want some white space there, so I'm going to leave that to just sort of flow together. And then I'm going to come back in with my Payne's Gray. So I'm going to pull a little bit more out into my mixing area here so it's pretty dark. And I'm going to do the same thing we did on the bottle. Just kind of going along the edges here to add that darkness. Did a little bit more on the left than I did on the right. Yours might be different. I do want it to be a little more, I want a little more darkness on the edges and the bottom to give it that feeling of depth. Now for this little oval down here, I'm going to take some of my red. I want to paint inside that inside oval. So I just painted the red directly in there. I didn't start with water. So you can see I left the white space of the outside oval, and then I'm going to add just a little tiny bit of Payne's Gray on the edges of that, and just kind of tapping it in there. And my edges aren't like perfectly crisp in there, but that's okay. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing for the top of the, or the base of the glass here. But I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to take the Payne's Gray, mix a little bit of water here. I'm going to paint directly in this little section here, right up to the base of the stem. And I'm just going to kind of connect this up to the rest of my glass, and it is going to bleed in there, which is what I want. It's going to pick up a little bit of that red. So I'm going to hold that up so you can see what I did there. I just painted directly in there, and I kind of just connected it up to the rest of the glass, and a little bit of the red did bleed in there, which is what I wanted. While it's still wet, I'm going to just pull a little bit of that down with the tip of my brush onto the side of the stem there. So I just kind of pulled it down on the sides there. And then the last step for the wine is this, the top of the wine here. Now I'm going to take my red and add just a little bit more water to it up here. For this one, just to make it easier on ourselves, I'm going to paint the red directly into this area, leaving a little bit of space between this area so just wet on dry here, filling in that area with the red, just going around these little reflections a little bit. Now I just touched into this area down here, which is okay. It's just going to bleed down in there. Might be kind of cool. I'm going to do it on the other side too. It's going to do that nice backwash. And then add just a little bit of Payne's Gray to the outside edges here. Just let that kind of bleed in. If you feel like your red isn't dark enough, you can add a little bit more. Might add just a little bit more right in the middle. Yeah. A little bit more Payne's Gray. Now I'm just fiddling around with it. I should probably stop.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doing okay?
Oh, it doesn't look as good as yours.
Sort of getting there.
Yeah, I kind of figured, this is going to be, you probably have to finish it up after class. I wasn't sure. This is definitely a more involved painting. So I'm going to show you how I did this part. And if you're not ready, you can come back to it later. And then our background here. So for the label, I just used the green. I'm going to pull out some of my sap green, or if you have Hooker's green. And I'm going to paint that directly onto that line. And again, I'm painting right up to my pencil lines there so that we won't see them later. I used green, but you could use really whatever color you wanted. And the wine in my bottle should be dry by now, so you shouldn't have to worry about it bleeding in there. And you might have a few pencil lines after you're done, but you can just erase them when it's completely dry. Now I'm going to add just a tiny bit of Payne's Gray, kind of like at the edge here, maybe up here where it meets the wine glass, and on these edges. And then for this sunflower, and I know I'm going fast, I'm trying to end on time, which I'm not going to as per usual, but I'm going to show you, I'm not going to paint the whole thing. I'm going to show you how I do it, and then you can do it on your own. I'm going to paint the middle with burnt sienna directly into that circle. And then I like to add, Payne's Gray is like the star of the day. A little bit of Payne's Gray in there. You could add a little bit, so I just add some little kind of drops of it in there. You could add some salt if you wanted to. That makes a nice texture. I didn't do that for this one, but. And then I just use the yellow to paint my petals. And it's okay if they sort of touch the center and bleed in there a little bit. So what I do is I start with kind of a layer of this yellow, and then I'll come back with a little bit of burnt sienna and just kind of pull that out into the petal. You could add a darker brown if you have that in your palette, or you could mix some burnt sienna with a little bit of Payne's gray. It's a little bit too much. It's like black now. And add some darker details if you want. So I guess I'm giving you homework to finish this. I don't like homework, but and with these, it's like you kind of don't have to worry about like staying in the lines too much. It's kind of better if they're kind of loose, I guess. I think they look better. And if you try to make them too perfect. Now, you will notice that when you're done, you're going to have this whole side of the bottle that's white. So on the original painting, it is all white. I erased that pencil line after it was done.
Oh.
I think it looks kind of cool that way. Another sort of unfinished part, but your brain fills it in, right?
Well, and it partners with the right-hand side unfinished parts.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of pulls it all together.
Ooh, and then I don't have to get my ruler out, thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to get your ruler out.
Is this where I admit I've almost always had homework? Reality bites.
It's okay.
But it's okay. That's the way it goes.
All right, so I'm going to move on to our background, and really it's just yellow and burnt sienna. So I'm just going to add some water down here along that pencil line, and then as far as you want to go with it. So I kind of just smoothed it around. It's not like super, I'll bring this back over here so you can see it, but I kind of just got up to these objects and just kind of smoothed the water out a little ways. I'm kind of getting up there, but I'm not bringing the water all the way to side of those things. We can do that get a little bit more precise when we add the paint. So I just added the water, and now I'm going to take my yellow, add a little bit of water to that. And then again, just kind of going right up to that pencil line, right along the stem of the glass. Kind of letting that blend in.
Boy.
So not real precise at all. The yellow is kind of good for that. You don't have to get like super precise. I'm just kind of using the side of my brush and smoothing it out. And then a little burnt sienna here. You could use quinacridone gold if you have that. It would be really nice.
What about yellow ochre?
Yellow ochre would be great. Any of those. It's really up to you. I'm just using what I had on the supply list so that, because I know not everybody has all the colors. And you could bring this down here a little bit if you wanted. Maybe down underneath the bottle like this. A little bit over here. That's pretty much as far as I would go with it. Just going to darken up these petals a little bit at the base. And that's it. When it's dry, you clean up your pencil lines. If you have any left that are visible, you know, smooth out any other little lines that you might have there. Darken any parts that need to be darkened. Any questions?
But I'm painting and holding my breath. How can I ask a question too?
You said we can add our Payne's gray borders anytime. So if I left for half a day and came back and added them, that'd be okay?
Payne's gray borders. You mean the little line up here? That, yeah, this one was a separate line, so yeah, you could add that anytime. When you're doing the wet and wet with the Payne's gray, that has to be done at the same time.
Okay.
Otherwise, the wet and wet isn't going to work quite the way you want it to.
All right.
Okay, well, I know that was a lot. We have the video. I'll send out the instructions. You all did great. I just know it. And this is a little bit longer than usual.
How do we access the video? Just you'll have it in an email?
Yeah, so I will send you an email with the link and it'll be on YouTube. So it's an unlisted YouTube video, which means just you with the link can view it. It's not like visible, searchable in YouTube. It's not private, but it's unlisted. So there's no password, but you can only access it if I send you the link.
Okay.
And I think you can download it from there if you want to. And then I'll send out the instructions. All you have to do is click on the link and you'll be able to watch it. Now, it takes me a little while because I do have to edit, and so it's usually later in the day, and it takes a long time to upload to YouTube and things like that. So,
Okay, that's fine. When I say I'm not technologically advanced, I'm talking about figuring out how to download it and put it somewhere that I can find it again. So I'll get my daughter to help me. I'll get my daughter to help, or my granddaughter.
All right. Any other questions?
Could we see your picture again?
My picture, sure.
Yeah. What you did with the tabletop. What I want to see. Oh yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And I'll send a picture of this with the instructions also.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful. That looks great.
Yeah.
Very
it's like
nice.
Theater. It only has to look good at 10 feet away.
Right.
I have some blurps and some fixing to do when it dries out.
Yeah, I do too.
I totally messed up the bottle. My line, I didn't see my pencil line, and I've got a left-handed bottle and a right-handed bottle.
That's all right. All right.
But I'm pleased with learning the process. So thank you.
Good.
I'll
Good.
show you mine quickly, what I've done so far.
Let's see.
I can't see you, BJ. All I can see is Catherine.
Oh, that's okay. You're in the postage stamp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you
looks
got
great.
It. Ta-da.
Yeah.
Jen?
All right.
Jen, have you got anything?
I on this little screen, I can't find a place where I can.
Oh, beautiful, Leanne. Looks great, Leanne. Nice. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay.
And I hope you all have a great Memorial Day weekend.
And you were going to talk to us a little bit about some paints or not?
Okay. I'm going to stop the class and then I will stay on and answer questions. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.